Welcome, Greek U Nation, to episode number 504 of the Fraternity Foodie Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Eilon, CEO of Greek University. I'm a speaker and an author. Our fifth book just came out. It's called Perseverance and How to Be a Great Fraternity or Sorority Alumnus. So I want you to go and pick up that book on Amazon or Barnes & Noble today. We call these episodes the Fraternity Foodie Podcast because there is nothing like great food to bring college students together. So, fun fact, today with our next guest, we were talking about late bloomers in life, and that is totally cool. All right. Sometimes things happen later on in life. So, for example, I'm now finishing up my doctorate degree and I'm about to turn 50 years old. It's totally fine. It could be 50, 60, 70, or 80. There is no timeline for any of this. Do things at your own time schedule when you are ready for it. And I tell you what, the rewards are going to be there, whether it's today, tomorrow, or next year. So don't even worry about the timeline. Do things at your own schedule. Now, next, let's talk a little bit about our next guest. It's Celeste Sowder. She is the author of I Am Here, But I Am Late and founder of the Soul Sister Project. Her life has been a journey of learning to embrace the messiness of learning resilience later in life, mental health, and finding purpose through that struggle. After experiencing a mental breakdown in 2023 and losing the grip of her white-knuckled sanity, Celeste realized how desperately she needed to let go and just trust God with her story. That breakdown was a turning point, showing her the power of vulnerability, the importance of faith, and how our hardest moments can lead to our greatest impact. So if you're ready to stop playing small, step out of the box and share your story, let's do this together with Celeste. You're not alone, and your impact is just waiting to unfold. Welcome to the show, Celeste.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Hey, it is an honor to have you on the show, and I absolutely love your pink flamingo too. It shows that you have great taste in accents for your home, so I love
I love it. Yes, thank
it.
you.
So let's just jump right into the deep end, right? I mean, let's just get right into it. You had this mental health crisis back in 2023. Tell our audience what was going on in your life at that time.
There was so much going on in my life at that time. So I had just yeah, I'm an open book. So we're just gonna get into it. We're gonna go deep real quick.
Yeah.
So I had just had gastric sleeve. I lost 100 pounds in 5 months. My hormones were all kinds of out of whack. And then on top of it, like I really am like I am an open book. I was menopausal because I'd had a hysterectomy in the past. Like there was just a lot of things going on medically, physically, like that, but in the background of that, so I am also a late bloomer in faith and stuff like that, and we'll kind of probably talk about that a little bit and like when we get to my book. But I'm a late bloomer in faith, and so I had come to faith later in life, 35 or so. I had talked about, like, I had been in church but not in church. I hadn't really, anyways, but at 35, 36, we had a crisis happen where my oldest daughter was kidnapped by her biological father, and then God got to me through that, and she was returned, and everything's good. But anyways, I went from not believing to believing to jumping into ministry. And at the time in 2023, where I was losing my mind, is that I was going through a hormonal thing and I wasn't myself, and the ministry that we had like poured into really ostracized me completely. And so I was isolated, and I didn't, all these relationships I'd poured years into, like everything just kind of came crumbling down. And I had to sit in that discomfort. There was nothing that I could do about it. But yeah, I didn't realize that I was actually having like hormonal issues and stuff like that because I was blaming it all on myself. So all of this like combined, when I finally reached out for help and I realized that it had something to do with hormonal, the diagnosis of ADHD that I had never received in my life. I was 41, like literally, I think it was like around December 5th, I got diagnosed like 2 weeks to my 41st birthday. And all of these things just like the crumbling, but then the building back up with that diagnosis. It was it was exactly what I had been praying for my entire life. Like I'd been asking the question, what the heck is wrong with me my entire life? And it came in losing everything and a diagnosis. And that was when I started fighting for myself and quit allowing others to tell me who I was. And so anyways, yeah, there was a lot going on. Oh, and then financial issues too, because I'm married to a farmer. So there's just a lot. There was a lot going on at the time.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like you had a ton of, I mean, each one of those sounds like its own podcast episode. I mean, talking about the kidnapping of your daughter by her biological father. I mean, this is like a movie. I mean, there's so much going on here. So I guess, the question remains, how do you move in your journey from that ADHD diagnosis all the way to entrepreneurial success? I mean, what's the key to that bounce back?
Yeah, and isn't that crazy that that was really only 10 months ago
Right,
that
it
all of
wasn't
this
long ago.
happened, 11 months ago maybe.
Mhm.
Um I put my head down and I started doing the things. So I felt it in my spirit to start a podcast for like years, but I didn't have anything to say. And it wasn't until I really got medicated, honestly, that all of a sudden my brain was like clicking. Um, and uh, and then I also applied AI to that too. And I know, like, well, I bought your book too. That's on the Greek University, just to see what y'all were talking about with the AI and stuff like that. And it's really just, it's so amazing to see all of these people, just coming together in different aspects of utilizing AI. But I taught my AI. So about the time that I actually got diagnosed, ChatGPT actually came out with custom GPTs. And so I started playing with those before I was even diagnosed, honestly. And it became my left brain. So all the things that my brain deems not fit for survival, they leave the building. And so I don't have this database in my brain. So when I'm talking about like, who are you talking to? What are you talking about? Right. In the entrepreneurial world. It would be like I would go into panic mode because I couldn't remember. I would have a little snippet, but I wouldn't have the actual meh. And so AI is actually the key between the ADHD diagnosis and the entrepreneurial success. It was the AI that allowed me to go back to it time and time again, where I could ask it these questions. I wasn't getting judged for it, obviously, and my database was in that. And so that's what happened. And when I started doing the podcast and I started going live. So I've gone live almost every single day since January. I've taken a little bit of time off in between, but I have 160 some odd episodes on my podcast this year, going from not having a voice to people noticing that I actually had something to say. And I do a devotional kind of thing. And so these women were coming to me, how do I get started? What do I do? And so the entrepreneurial part of it is it's all wrapped up in this. Like it's so crazy, but it's all wrapped up in this. And it's the ADHD, it's the podcast live streams, it's the AI. And I recognize that other women wanted to take their adversity stories and turn it into advocacy, but they just didn't know how to hone in on that message. And that's where the entrepreneurial success comes in. I teach them how to hone in on it by giving them the tools that I've applied to myself. So,
Wow, that
yeah,
is really cool. I'm so happy that you're talking about the positive parts of artificial intelligence along with your ADHD and how it helps you just by asking you questions that nobody's going to judge you for at all, right? And so you're showing that positive aspect. And I think we don't talk about those positive aspects enough. I mean, I'm in higher education and I feel like anytime we talk about AI, immediately people start going to cheating for homework assignments and things like that. But there's a lot of really positive things that can happen with AI. It's here, it's not going anywhere. So we have to learn to live with it. It's almost like COVID-19 in a sense, right? It's here, it's not going anywhere. So the question is, how do we live with it? How do we continue our existence knowing
yes,
that it's sitting right here next to us, right? And
yeah,
so I think that's beautiful that you're talking about it in that positive way. And I think other college students that also have ADHD, they can use it in a similar fashion. And you're really helping them and you're giving them voice And we just don't talk about that enough. So I'm so
No,
glad
and
that
can
you
I
mentioned
I
that.
want to interject real
Yeah.
quick.
Yeah.
If I'd had these, well, if I'd had the diagnosis and then the technology available in 2001 when I graduated high school, I could have probably stayed in college and had the tenacity, right, to like persevere. But especially for undiagnosed women, we were expected, and we were high functioning. So I'm high functioning, highly masked, undiagnosed in 2001. I graduated and taught, I don't even remember, 25 of my class. I I was so, but I was burned out. I was falling apart. I was crumbling, but my grades didn't reflect my stuff, this other mental stuff happening. And so they were like, go on to college. But I didn't have any kind of support system. I didn't have any kind of anything to help me persevere through that. And AI, the technology available, is a game changer. And I know that like you hear all of that in AI and you hear it in entrepreneurial, but it truly is. It's like it's a life-changing technology for people that they don't have the, I literally have executive function disorder. I can't take a thought and bring it forward and make it, like, I don't have the capacity to make it happen. And so yes, it needs to be like, I know we've been talking, everybody's talking about AI, and people are like, oh my gosh, AI, I've seen it, how we met and stuff, like in these, I've seen it. And I'm like, no, there's so much positive with this,
Yeah.
so much.
I'm glad that you're talking about that. And you're also talking about these college students as well. I think we should discuss identity for college students and how does resilience shape your identity?
Yeah, yeah. So, just taking you back to that mental breakdown, I
Mhm.
was standing in my kitchen. I had just finished Daring Greatly by Brene Brown. I'd recognized that I was carrying a lot of shame. I did not know how much shame I was carrying at the time. It was like, it was another one of those cracks in that facade of who I was and to who I'm becoming right now. But I had just finished that book. I was listening to I couldn't get out of my emotions because of the hormonal, all the brain activity going on up here. And that thought, I'd heard something in the book. I don't even remember what it was. I've never learned resilience. I've never learned resilience. And I was telling my story to somebody yesterday, and they were saying, like, all I hear is resilience in your story. Okay, maybe, but it was a white-knuckled grip on my sanity, basically. It wasn't resilience. It was me trying to keep the facade of me up, um, and keep it together. And I'm talk a lot about this in my book. But it was a crack in the facade that I needed to see, that shame had been driving me my entire life, right? I'd never learned resilience. And I made it a point that I was going to learn resilience. I didn't even understand what resilience was. It started with the physics term. So the physics term of resilience is to, like, for an object, and it talks about animal tissue, an object to take a hit and bounce back to its original state. So it would be like, all those things that were said over me, done to me, if like I didn't understand my identity, I am getting to this. I didn't understand my identity. So anything that was said over me, to me, about me, I would absorb as identity. And when I recognized that I'd never learned resilience and the bounce back, right? Um, that was the turning point for me. So I made the resolve to do the things that, well, I wouldn't push past and do. So it was the using my voice. It was talking it out. It was being vulnerable. It was showing me. And honestly, at that point, I had nothing left to lose. And I don't say that you have to get to that point to learn resilience. You can start learning resilience right now, but the resilience is literally, don't let people tell you who you are. You go and learn who you are, right? Unless it's a good thing and you're like, yes, like I am a strong person, I am loving. But see, the things that I had absorbed as my own is that, I didn't really have much to say. I was shy. Like these are the things that I absorbed as my identity, and they were not me at all. And so for college students, it's so easy to feel lost or unsure, and with every setback or even judgment from others, right? But what I'm coming to realize is that even the setbacks, the judgments, those are so much more about what's going on around you than you, that you cannot even imagine, right? And so it's always an opportunity to grow too, in the fact that, are you going to take those judgments and absorb them, or can they bounce off of you? Maybe that there is a little bit of truth to what somebody says or sees. So take it, take the opportunity to grow. But you don't have to sit and wallow in self-pity. You don't have to absorb it and make it an identity for the rest of your life. But if you can learn the resilience, oh my gosh, I have an 18 and 21-year-old, both girls, okay? And we are learning resilience with both of them right now, because I didn't know, right? I didn't know how to teach them this when they were younger. And I'm going to tell you, on the other side of resilience and the other side of letting that bounce back, like bounce off of you, letting that bounce off of you, you coming into agreement with who God says you are, really. You are loved. You do have a purpose. There is meaning to your life. There is a calling on you. Like, you have a greater purpose. When you move past absorbing other people's judgments or whatever, and you stand in those things, right? That builds your confidence. It builds up who you truly were meant to be always. And it gives you these like moments of perseverance that you can just discover what you're capable of. And I'd never learned to push past the discomfort and just go and do and find out what I'm capable of. And it's really fun to watch my kids in a safer environment, it feels like, right? They're in a really safe environment right now, learning to do this. And there's joy. There's so much joy on the other side of it. So much joy.
I'm so glad
Sorry,
that you
that was a
found that.
long one.
No, it was. But listen, I'm just glad you are where you are, that you found that joy. Maybe it took you a little bit longer than maybe the rest of the population, right? That's okay. But you're there now, and enjoy it, and teach your kids to find it sooner. That's really
Yes.
what it's really all about, right? So I think that's really fantastic. Now, you're talking about your 18 and 21-year-old daughters, plural. I also have, a 17-year-old daughter, and who's in college now as a freshman. And I think that for the college students, they need to start building authentic connections.
Yes.
That's really what
Absolutely.
college is all about for me and for my daughter and for your daughters, is, those authentic connections. That's how they're going to get to where they want to go, is to rely on those authentic connections. But how can they build it authentically when everything is digital these days?
Yeah.
Even dating is swiping right and left on an app. So, how do they build authentic connections in that environment?
Yeah, yeah. So what I'm recognizing, I have two totally different kids, right? And they have totally different personalities. I have one that is not scared to say hi, talk to, or anything to anyone, and her connections already go up to Washington D.C. Like it really, and she's my youngest one. She's 18. She's just making these connections and this networking. So number one, no fear. You cannot be afraid of who you're talking to, even if it's, I don't even, the president of the United States. You cannot be afraid to go up and introduce yourself. See, that's the other part of the resilience, right? How they respond is all on them, right? It's not on you. It's putting yourself out there. No fear. Do it. The networking. And it has to be done. And I'm going to tell you too, for the kids that grew up in the digital age, literally looking eyeball to eyeball is a big deal, right? They're used to the screens. They're used to making the connections with their fingers and things like that. But if you can master the skill, the art of conversation, eyeball to eyeball, in this young of an age, man, you're gonna go far. Like, just push past the fear, go out there and start introducing yourself. It's going to change your life. Do it, I promise. And just push past that fear. So That's one thing. So in the digital age, start making handshakes, eyeball to eyeball, and it will go, you will go far. Another thing is when you are on the digital, it's opening up, it's being vulnerable, it's being authentic. In an Instagram perfect world, we really truly need some authenticity. And I know authenticity is such a like keyword out there, right? Like, or I don't even know. I think people are getting tired of hearing it, but there's something to say about actually being authentic. And I'm not saying messy authentic. I'm um talking about my mental health crisis, right? Growing up with it and actually being open and vulnerable about it because I'm not the only one, right? And but being vulnerable, being authentic, opening up, talking about those things, not having the need to be completely polished is okay. But on the other side of that is it really truly human to human connections. It's going to take you a long ways. So I hope that helps.
Right. It definitely does help. And, you're talking a little bit more about your mental health, and I'm glad that you are, because just like you said, a lot of these listeners who we have here today, they're also struggling with their mental health as well. Talk about how AI can support their mental health and even something like personal branding for college students.
So this is my jam. I love personal branding. I started doing that before I even realized I had mental health issues. I've had mental health issues my entire life. I didn't realize it until I literally lost the grip of that facade, that white-knuckled sanity. But AI has helped tremendously in my mental health because let me just paint a picture. Undiagnosed ADHD woman. I've had an entrepreneurial spirit since I don't even know, probably well, fourth grade. I think that's when I first started my first business. I was selling like memberships under, the swing set or whatever for $1. And but it was so AI has helped tremendously with the mental health as far as my entrepreneurial stuff too, because I can feed it my wildest imagination and it can actually come back and tell me how to implement it step by step. And so that's really cool too. There's some validation there. Another thing is that the more that we feed into AI, right? Because that's what we're doing. It becomes a collective consciousness. It's not artificial intelligence, it's a collective intelligence. So I want to like just paint a picture like it's not artificially going and like learning this stuff. It's literally being taught on what we've already put out there. So I talk a lot about personal branding, repurposing content. So I've talked about going live every day and I talk and I talk and I talk and it's like I'd never talked before in 40 years because I hadn't. But I talk and then I feed my transcripts through and it picks out little parts and I can make reels with it. I can do quote cards. I can write a long form article. I can do a blog, like all these things. If you look at AI like that, it is a collective consciousness, it's a collective intelligence. And when it comes to mental health, you can tell it what you're experiencing, how you feel, all these things. For one thing, it's becoming more empathetic. Another thing, it has been trained on the internet. And so as you feed it information, it's going and grabbing what it's got. Perplexity is the best one, FYI. Perplexity is the best one for this one. Not ChatGPT, but it'll go and grab. And Perplexity actually will bring back videos on YouTube. It'll bring back articles from blog posts. It'll bring back all this stuff. So if you're experiencing this, it will help you understand it. And then also, it's not above, reach out for help. Here is this hotline number, right? Um, I just, there's so much to say about it because it can be used for such positive things. Yeah, anyways, I'm very passionate about it.
I'm so glad that you're sharing all that. You're giving some really good tips for our audience to get the help that they need, no matter what it is, whether it be mental health or personal branding or what have you. I think it's AI is there to assist, which is great, which is
Yeah.
so great. You've mentioned the Soul Sister Project. Tell our audience, what is the Soul Sister Project?
So the Soul Sister Project was originally just a Facebook page or a Facebook group
Mhm.
for a team that I built in 2020. Um, but it's grown to be so much bigger than that. So it's a platform designed to help impact driven women, entrepreneurs overcome their adversity and take like adversity to advocacy story. I've kind of touched on that a little bit. And we do that by providing not only the community, which is the project part of it is the Soul Sister Project, but we also have education and we have tools, right? So I'm in the process of trying to develop a platform. So it would take our I don't know, the core of our program called the Soul Sister Accelerator. And it's going to, I teach others how to utilize AI. So it starts with the personal branding part. I need to know like who you are, what you're talking about, and what you're passionate about. And so we do like an interview, and then we feed it through some prompts, and we can build out from nothing to something within about an hour. I can build a brand for you. Or I teach you how to do it. So there's a couple of different ways we do it. And we're just building community and legacy, and it all boils down to what legacy it all and I don't want to say like it all boils down to me, because that's not it at all. My heart goes out to these women, but I, as a mother, I look at this and how can I pave the road for my children to be a little bit smoother and get a head start where I didn't have it. And they both are, they're both very entrepreneurial. They both are visionaries, and so that's where I that's what drives me in the Soul Sister Project, is to give the tools to the women that need it now, but it's also my children and their children's children and all that stuff, right? And so anyways,
Yeah, we
I
have
hope.
a lot in common. There's no question about that. I mean, really, I mean, I started Greek University 9 years ago, and it was really because I saw that my kids were getting ready to be college age. And I knew that, 9 years from now, they were going to enter college. And it was, either I was going to make it a safer place for them so that way they can come home in one piece, or I wouldn't, and that wasn't really an option for me. So I was like, well, I'm just going to start building it, and sure enough, we'll make college a safer place, and we've done it. We still have a lot more work to do. By no means do I think that we've
Yeah,
solved
me
every problem under the sun. I mean, there's more work to do, and there probably always will be. But that being said, I feel really good about where my kids are in terms of their journey, and the environment that they're operating in today on college campuses, and all the information and the resources that they have. And even this interview right here is part of that resource treasure chest that they have to help them to navigate all of the issues that they're going to run into, whether it be personal branding or mental health or what have you. We're giving them those tools to help them be more successful than we were. And that's all we can do as humans, is to make it better for the next generation. And I think you're doing that for yourself, and you're also doing it for your daughters, and you're also doing it for everybody else that you interact with. So for that, I'm very proud of the work that you've done. And you have this upcoming memoir. It's called I Am Here, But I Am Late. So what
yes.
would our listeners learn by reading your book?
Yeah, so I'm here, but I'm late. I already feel like I have about 5 books in me. This is the first one. It's definitely the antagonist is shame, and it's how shame had literally stolen my relationship with my father, and his relationship with me. And so I start at the very end, basically like my mental breakdown part, kind of at the beginning of it. I go to my father's death, and then I go back to the very beginning, some of my first memories, and then so it all centralizes around my father was gay in West Texas in the 1990s, and the thing is I don't think kids understand what the 1990s, like what was going on in this whole thing. So my dad was an advocate for his home, like his sexuality. He was an advocate for all people, really. Like he just had a heart for that. But I didn't see him like that because I was so covered up in judgment, fear. So in the 1990s, like homosexuality and AIDS, it was like an equal sign. And I thought he had just signed up for a death sentence, right? And it wasn't like that, but that's what I carried even to his deathbed, was I judgment. And so it's a memoir of going back, confronting a lot of the things that I actually did right in this relationship, and finding redemption even after his death, and how even coming as a late bloomer, coming to the realization that yeah, we could have probably had a really different relationship, but there's so much grace and self-compassion and redemption on the other side of even forgiving yourself and others in how they played a part in all of that. And so anyways, that's it's a little synopsis. There's a lot in that book, but yeah.
Sounds
So
like an incredible book. I can't wait to read it. So, sounds just fascinating. You know, one other thing I wanted to talk to you about is a lot of the college students, and I'm sure you see this even with your own daughters, is maybe that they're just struggling to find what their calling in life is. And I feel like they're always comparing themselves to their friends and other people to figure out, am I on the right path? Or is Susie over there, my friend, is she actually on the right path? And I need to jump ship and join Susie, right? So there's always this comparison, and maybe that's because of social media, and like we're
mhm.
comparing, you know, our lives to somebody else's best life on Instagram. I don't know, but how can the college students find what their true calling is?
I know this sounds so cliche and probably flippant, but put your blinders on. Like literally put your blinders on and take the little steps that are out in front of you. Shiny object syndrome will only get you so far. I promise it won't get you very far, because I did shiny object syndrome for a decade probably before I finally just put my head down and started going. But it is definitely the comparison trap. It's like, oh yeah, Susie Q over there, like she's living it up, and
Mm-hmm.
they're just getting a highlight reel. They're not seeing Susie Q like losing her mind over there, you know.
Right.
So what I really would just say is embrace your unique journey. Nobody's journey looks the same. Nobody's. Like, let's just take this moment right here and like at this time. I don't know how your journey took you to this, right? Like, I know a little bit because I did a little bit of research, but I mean, we're just now coming into each other's space. You're 50, I'm 41. Like, my path is, and I'm really open about it, but not about all of it, right? And so like these paths have us converging at this point. And I know that there was a point in your life that you were like, I have to pivot. I
Yeah.
can't keep doing what I'm doing,
Yeah.
right? Mine literally came in my kitchen, and I was like, I either start dying or I start living. And I was like, I choose life over here, whether it looks like what I think it should or not. Like, this is what I choose. So at 18, 19, 22, 24, please choose life and just put the blinders on and take the little steps in front of you, even if it's a discomfort, like there's a discomfort. Because see, life is not, it's not a highlight reel. It's real. Like, it's a real thing that you have to learn these real things. Like, you have to learn the resilience. You have to push past and learn the perseverance. And it's a unique journey. It's nobody else has been on your journey or will take your journey. So just start early, please. If
Yeah.
you can take anything from my story, please start early.
Yeah, you're so right. I absolutely had that pivot moment. It was 9 years ago and starting this business. But you know what? On the other side of that struggle was something just absolutely amazing. So you have to get past it in order to
Yes.
get that amazing thing that's waiting behind it. But that was the most difficult part, was making that pivot, making that transition, and just saying, you know what? I just got to do it. I just have to do it, and stop talking about it and stop
Yeah.
thinking about it and actually do something about it.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, but on the other side, amazing. Like, I should have done this 20 years ago, but I didn't
Yes.
know. So, like, so it is what it is. You know, you find out when you find out, and you just got to pay attention to all those cues in life that are telling you this is the direction. You got to pay attention to those signs. Now, I know you're kind of in this rural area of Texas. I know your husband's a farmer out there, but let's say I'm in a more populous area. Let's say I'm in like Lubbock or Amarillo. You know, where should I go for a great meal? Because I love to eat. I mean, I'm an eater.
I like to eat too. And so I don't know much about Amarillo. I haven't spent much time there, but I was born and raised in Lubbock.
Yeah.
So yeah, go Red Raiders. So Taco Villa is like, staple, and it's just a fast food restaurant, y'all. But and they definitely have them. They have them all over the place. But Taco Villa is like the bomb. Some of my earliest memories are actually eating a bean burrito from Taco Villa. So, anyways, yeah. So Taco Villa, Las Frisas for fine dining. So, like, if you want to live it up, and go spend $100 on a steak, Las Frisas or Double Nickel. And then like, okay, I don't know about you, but I am a sushi lover, and so, it's not a restaurant though that I would suggest. I would suggest HEB or Market Street. They're both grocery stores. Grab and go. So good. So good. And then last but not least, if you're on Texas Tech campus and you need somewhere to walk, there's a couple of places. So Torchy's, and it's, it's a national chain, and that's one of my favorites. They have the best Baja tacos. And Spanky's is locally owned, and they are known for their fried cheese. And it's not like your little like round cheese sticks. No, these are like hunks of cheese, like bread and batter, like it's like Southern batter. Anyways, it's really good. So Spanky's, yeah.
I love it. I think all the taco recommendations are right on. Listen, Tex-Mex in Lubbock is fantastic. Nobody's going to deny it. I'm certainly not going to deny it. It's absolutely delicious. You started talking about the sushi, and I'm like, you're in Texas. I'm like, where
Well,
is that fish coming from?
they have some with jalapenos and stuff on them. So
So
there you
yeah,
go.
so like as a guy who was born in New York City, I might have to take you to like, Manhattan or some other
Yeah,
place to get some really good sushi because
I
it's a little bit
love that.
fresh. But all the other recommendations are right on. I'm with you everywhere else. All right. So if the students want to work with you, maybe for an event to empower through faith, through mental health advocacy, personal growth stories, and all of the services that you offer, where should they go in order to connect with you?
Okay, so if you're looking on social media, I know I sound like an old person, but Facebook's my biggest platform. I have like the largest following there, and I'm on there quite a bit. I am on TikTok also, and it's just under my name, Celeste Sowder. So if you want to reach out to me through TikTok, but the best probably would be email. In all honesty, right? Email is still king, y'all. So it's Celeste at thesoulsisterproject.com.
I love it. Celeste at thesoulsisterproject.com. And go and check out thesoulsisterproject.com to learn more about that. I think it's absolutely fantastic. And Celeste, listen, you are right on time. Okay. For all of this talk about how late you are and all of these things, I don't buy any of it. I think you were ready when you were ready. And when it did come, it was something amazing. So,
Wow.
listen, it's a beautiful thing. And so thank you for sharing all this great information with our listeners today.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Of course. And to our listeners, if you enjoyed this conversation with Celeste, I want you to like it and I want you to share it on social media with all of your friends. And we will see you on the next episode of the Fraternity Foodie Podcast. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.